These days, no matter what shape or size of car you're after, the chances are there's a selection of brand new electric cars that cater to your needs. But if there's one thing we could do with a little bit more of in the EV space, it's fun, playfulness, tomfoolery. Not all cars have to be practical and sensible. Some can just be designed to make you smile. Look at this, for example. It's an old Citroën Mahari and it is wonderfully silly. Except it's not an old Citroën. It's a brand new electric car. And the company we've come to visit today specialises in exactly this sort of thing, taking lovely old French cars and turning them into lovely new electric cars. They specialise in Maharis and 2CVs, but they've dabbled in Renault 5s, Renault 4s, Renault Twingos. They've even, controversially, done some non-French stuff. But their latest project might just be their zaniest yet, and my favourite to date. This is the new Burton EV sports car. This is 2CV and Mahari Club Cassis, and this is the Fully Charged Show. We've teamed up with Duracell Energy to celebrate their brilliant ecosystem of home energy products and their platinum homeowner offer by giving away a Duracell bunny. To win, simply watch to the end and answer a question about Fully Charged. Now, let me just give you a little bit of quick extra context as to where we are today, who we've come to see, because it is an extraordinary facility. 2CV Mahari Club Cassis are the world's leading manufacturer of parts for old Citroën 2CVs, Citroën Maharis and Burtons, all of which, in case you're not aware, are actually the same car underneath. They actually have the official licensing from Citroën to manufacture new components for these old cars, all of which have huge cult followings in order to keep them alive and on the road for as long as possible. And one day these guys thought, well, actually, our list of components that we manufacture is so comprehensive, we could just build brand new ones if we wanted to. And it being the 2020s, we'd better make them electric. So that's another thing they've been doing in recent years, retrofitting old 2CVs, turning them electric, like the one we drove in the UK a couple of summers ago, but also building brand new electric Citroën Maharis, homologating them as L7E microcars. And now they've decided it's time to do the same for the Burton. This electric Burton, this is a brand new car. They're building these from scratch, but previous Burtons have just been kit cars for Citroën 2CVs. It's just a body that you drop on top of an old Citroën 2CV. And they wanted to keep this authentic, so the proportions are the same. That means it's very small, very narrow, has some very skinny tyres. It's not especially fast, so it doesn't need huge grip. And the chassis is pretty authentic as well. It's got the same funky swing arms for the suspension that point forwards and backwards instead of outwards, like on every other car, which is part of what gives the Citroën 2CV its legendary comfort. The same will be true of this. Now this is quite interesting. What we essentially have here is the running gear from a Citroën 2CV. Citroën Ami, not 2CV, Ami. My apologies. Same motor, except this currently has one in the front and one in the back. It's all-wheel drive. They are thinking about revising that for the production version and actually just bringing both motors to power the front wheels, because again, this is based on a Citroën 2CV. It was always front-wheel drive. Seems weird for a sports car, but it's a weird car. What you're not seeing in here is the battery, because of course this being bespoke, this being a brand new car, they've not had to lump the battery somewhere it wasn't designed to be. They have actually built it into the chassis of the car. 25 kilowatt hours, by the way, which they reckon is good for about 250 kilometers, 155 miles, because again, lightness, which means efficiency. Of course, Citroën and French car brands in general have an illustrious history of making some wonderfully wacky stuff, and this continues that tradition. You might be looking at this and be like, what on earth is the point? But if you're asking that, you're missing the point. Right, time for a wee drive. Just one thing worth noting is, you remember that gear lever I showed you for selecting forward and backwards? Well, it will do that in the production car. It's just for show in this very early prototype. What I instead have to do is operate a touchscreen that I've thoughtfully mounted on the underside of the dash piece, sort of where my left knee is. Just excuse me. Ah! And that's drive. Let's just pray I don't have to reverse at any point. Right. Let's begin. Well, I think we have to start with the comforts, weirdly enough, because of course this is fundamentally a brand new Citroën 2CV underneath one of the most legendarily comfortable cars ever made, and that shares this trait with it. You hit bumps in the road, speed bumps, it just ignores them completely. It's unfathomable how a car as old as the 2CV and as simple as the 2CV can be so superior to expensive modern luxury vehicles in terms of the way it goes over bumpy roads. We really have gone backwards in the comfort department, and this is reminding me of that. It is wonderfully squashy. And you may well think, well, a 2CV is a terrible platform for a sports car, surely. I'd say two things to that. Number one, this isn't really a sports car, it's just a funny body. And number two, it's not as bad as you think. Because those suspension swing arms point backwards at the back instead of sticking outwards, when you turn hard and the car leans onto its side, it actually extends the wheelbase on that outside, which is good for stability, good for handling. I appear to have accidentally driven into a very busy French industrial estate. Oh God, I'm gonna have to reverse again. Oh, big lorries are very scary from down here. Maybe if I roll it back. Oh, it doesn't roll back. I was hoping. Oh. Yes. Yeah, I can see why they're not sticking with the touch screen on the underside of the dash. Drive selector arrangement is that forwards? Ah, yes. Yeah, it's not ideal. As I was saying, suspension, the standout thing I'm noticing, even on these lovely smooth French roads, it's so squashy. And that makes this the only L7 microcar I've ever driven that I would genuinely consider doing 100 miles in. Even really fancy ones like the Microlino. They just don't have the sophistication of suspension to be bearable for anything more than short to medium journeys. This has it. And when you combine that with a genuinely useful 150 odd miles of range, actually this isn't just limited to a kind of, you know, to the pub and back sort of vehicle. You could, if you were mad and lived somewhere with very good weather, you could do little trips in it. I suppose the next thing worth mentioning is just the weirdness, the specialness. The view out is, well, as you can imagine, unlike anything that I've ever driven. I've got this incredible sculpted bonnet, those bolted on headlights, this completely pointless windscreen. It's got all the occasion and specialness of a really lovely old classic car, except it's electric. It won't break down. And it's compact, it's diddy. I'm not taking up all of the road, which means I can enjoy a really narrow road like this without having to breathe in every time someone comes the other way. Actually, genuinely fantastic. I think I sort of teed this video up to be like, you know, bit silly, bit pointless, but why not? But I think it's better than that. Could do with a bigger windscreen though. That is one thing I will say. Now let me just fold myself into the interior to show you around. This is especially prototype in here, but you do get a sense of what things are going to be like. Legs first, I find works well, and then you just slide in. And I tell you what, more room once you're in than you might think. Great visibility, look at that. Of course, if I roll it, the closest thing to a roll cage is my head, but well, don't, I suppose. Anyway, what have we got in here? Well, we've got what looks like the gear shifter from an old Citroën 2CV. They've got these in their brand new electric Maharis as well. It's really just there as a kind of homage. You don't have to change gear. There's no H-pattern gearbox. You just click it forward for forward or back for back. We've got a lovely stainless steel dashboard. We've got this wonderfully tactile, old school indicator. That is just so lovely to use. I remember thinking the same thing when I was in that little Carice, just the difference that a really lovely weighted switch can make in terms of just bringing you that little bit of pleasure every time you get to operate it. And that's about it really. We've got a couple of dials that are not quite functional just yet, but I'm sure will be at some point in the near future. These seats are temporary. I think the UK spec cars are going to have essentially the rear bench from a Citroën 2CV, which means you'll sit a bit lower in the car. I could do with that, as you can see. And that's about it really. A comedically huge steering wheel. We don't have power steering, so it's quite good to have a slightly bigger wheel to give you a bit more leverage. It does mean that I'm having some issues in terms of where to put my legs, but all of that will be resolved with the bench seat and the lower seating position, I'm sure. It's just unlike anything else in the world, isn't it? Oh, let me just adjust my wing mirrors, hang on. Good. It occurs to me that if I'd had my sensible hat on today, what I probably should have done is briefly show you this and then focus the video on all those lovely old retrofits that they had out front for us. The 2CV, the Renault 4, the Renault 5, the Twingo, because that's the really genuinely exciting, sensible stuff. All those little old cars, there's still a lot of them on the road in France. And the cost of the conversion kit that Mahari Club Cassis have fabricated is tumbling, it's getting lower and lower. With a little bit of government incentive, which they actually have here in France, the cost of converting your beloved old Citroën 2CV to electric with these guys is in the region of 13,000 euro. And that's not chump change, but it's better than it was a few years ago. And of course, there is no more sustainable way to go about electrifying than using what we already have. If they can bring that cost down just a little bit more, which I believe they will over the next few years, hopefully we'll get to see all those lovely Twingos, Renault 4s, Renault 5s, Deux Chevaux that are still on the road here in France and around Europe have new life breathed into them. This, however, this is something else entirely. This is a brand new car and it's jolly expensive for what it is. They reckon it's going to be around 45,000 euros for one of these brand new. So it really is just It's a toy. It's a toy for people who are lucky enough to be able to afford it. Nothing more than that. As I said in the intro, does every car have to tick every box? Does every car have to be roomy and rangy and practical and have a roof? I don't want to live in a world where that's the case. We'd all just be in samey, boxy, soulless lumps. Even if there's only 4 or 5 people on planet Earth to whom this product makes sense, that's fine. They'll just build 4 or 5 of them. Goodness knows Mahari Club don't need the extra cash. They're doing just fine. This is a passion project. Hey, see? He likes it. What this thing is, pure and simple, is a celebration of automotive eccentricity. It's impractical, it's expensive, and all it wants to do is make you grin. And on a beautiful day like this, on a beautiful road like this in the south of France, when the weather's good, it feels just about perfect to me. You can say it's nonsensical, you can say it's too expensive, I don't mind that, but you just try and drive this for an hour and then tell me that all electric cars are boring. I've fallen a bit in love with this thing on this drive. More so than I expected. So there we have it, the remarkable, ridiculous Burton EV. Perhaps the best proof I have yet found that electric cars can make you smile. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and if you have been, thanks for watching.
We're really excited to partner with Duracell Energy to showcase their amazing renewable energy solutions. If you want to reduce your energy bills and join the renewable energy transition, installing home battery storage and solar panels at home is a great way to start. Duracell Energy's ecosystem of products typically partners with solar panels, but they can be just as effective without it, particularly for electric vehicle owners or anyone looking to take control of their energy. And with Duracell Energy's Platinum Homeowner offer, viewers can get a custom service that pairs you with top quality products and the best installers in your area. Your installation also comes with a 20-point check, a 6-month performance review, system health checks at 3 and 10-year periods, and outstanding local UK customer support every step of the way. Plus, Duracell Energy's batteries, inverters and EV chargers work together on one easy-to-use app. With features like dynamic tariff integration and grid services, you'll be able to maximise your return. Ready to get started? You can get your quote today. And don't forget, we're also giving away a Duracell Energy Bunny in every episode. Just answer the question about fully charged by following the link in the description. Good luck!